Hello and welcome to What the Faux Travel podcast with Nick and Amy. This is series 4, episode 9, and it's all about the Yucatán Peninsula in Mexico.
Hola amigos, welcome. Thank you for joining us for another episode of What the Faux Travel podcast. Mexico, the big one. We spent a lot of time in this country.
3 months to be exact.
3 months, and now we're going to talk about it. We did so much, it's broken into 2 parts. As Amy said, this is all about the Yucatán Peninsula, aka the tourist part of Mexico. We'll talk about this part of Mexico in episode 1. Episode 2 will be more about the real Mexico, so 2 very different episodes.
Absolutely. This is more of the holiday version, and I think the other one's going to be more cultural, very Mexican.
Traditional, absolutely. But plenty of Mexican culture coming up in this episode. And the thing is, this will be the part of Mexico that most people listening know about or are interested in going to.
Now, before we talk about all the individual places and give us all of our tips and tricks, let's go straight into game show facts.
Andere. Ay. Officially, the United Mexican States. The population is around 116 million, and the capital city is Mexico City. The major language is Spanish. Mexico has the second largest economy in Latin America, and it is a major oil exporter. But prosperity remains a dream for many Mexicans, as the gap between rich and poor remains wide. Rural areas are often neglected, and huge shanty towns ring the cities. Many poor Mexicans have crossed the US border in search of a better life, but in recent years, more Mexican immigrants have returned to Mexico than migrated to the USA. In fact, there are more US citizens moving to Mexico than the other way around. Tens of thousands of people have been killed in drug-related gang violence in the past decade. Powerful cartels control the trafficking of drugs from South America to the USA. Mexico is very much a victim of its location, as well as the demand for drugs from the USA, Canada, and Europe. The Spanish arrived in Veracruz, Mexico in 1519. The Aztec Empire was the last great civilization prior to the arrival of the Spanish. They conquered the Aztecs, and Mexico became a Spanish colony for 300 years. US states California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah used to be Mexico, but were lost in the Mexican-American War in 1846. Mexico invented color TV, birth control, and the Caesar salad.
The Caesar salad, as if. That's Greek, isn't it?
I thought Italian, but...
Oh, yeah, we always have this argument, don't we? I think it's Greek.
Caesar, he was Greek, wasn't he? No,
that's what
he was Italian.
Saying.
No, Caesar was Italian. Julius Caesar, the Roman geezer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was actually invented in Tijuana, which we'll talk about on the second... Tijuana.
Give it some accent.
Tijuana, ese. We'll talk about that on the next episode. That's an interesting place, quite unique. Is it American? Is it Mexican? It's a bit of mix of everything. Is it Greek? Is it Italian? But the Caesar salad was invented in Tijuana.
Very nice. Good game show facts there. And I'm glad you put in the fact about those states that are now in the USA, but they used to be Mexico. But you didn't add in the little gold fact that...
Go on then, you tell us.
You tell it.
So it was like a week after the USA took California, apparently a load of gold was discovered underground, wherever gold hangs out. A load of gold was discovered, which helped the USA be what it is today, the richest country on the planet. So if Mexico had held on to California for another week, maybe now Mexico would be the richest country in the world.
What? I just feel like poor Mexico.
And do you remember we were in Puerto Vallarta, which again we'll talk about in the second episode. We saw a man wearing, which I thought was a very funny, very clever t-shirt. So you know President Trump's whole campaign was Make America Great Again. I saw a guy, he wore a t-shirt and there was a picture of Mexico, like a map, but including the states it used to have. And on his t-shirt it said, Make America Mexico Again. I thought that was very clever.
That is very clever. Okay, right, let's talk about Mexico. So, Cancun.
Now, let's talk about our first impressions, because we'd heard a lot about Cancun. We've heard it's where people from the USA go for spring break. We've heard it's where the whole world goes for holiday.
We've heard it was just like a hotel jungle.
Yeah, it's a bit of the USA in Mexico. It's expensive. We've heard there's nice beaches, but
crowded as well, just full of people on their holidays, and it turns a bit tacky.
So we're thinking it probably won't be for us, but there were very cheap flights there. And, you know, all along this whole peninsula of Mexico, there are some amazingly beautiful places to see. That's why so many people go. But I tell you what, first impressions of Cancun were good.
We actually loved it, didn't we?
We had a very good time, maybe because our expectations were low. But as soon as we arrived, we were excited to be in Mexico. Of course, it still got Mexican food, more like Tex-Mex Mexican food, but still, we thought it was fascinating to go to taco stands,
Wait,
to
can
drink
I
tequila.
just say, I don't agree with that, because there was that food market there that was very Mexican.
Oh no, I will get onto that, because that was some of the best food we had in the whole country. But at first, yeah, it seemed, you know, a little bit, very touristic, a bit American. But as Amy's saying, we stayed more in town. We stayed away from the hotel area, which is, I think there's a little bit of land that kind of sticks out where it's just full of hotels. And we stayed away from that. We stayed in town, and right near where we're staying, it was actually a listener. I don't have the message with me. I can't say who you are. I can't mention your name. I'm sorry. But a listener said, last time I was in Cancun, there's a food market, and they showed us on a map, and it was right near where we were staying, our Airbnb. So we checked it out, and we were then there every night, like 4 nights in a row, I think.
It was amazing. It was like traditional, what you would think a Mexican food truck place would be. You know, there's families there. Or I'd say about 90% of the people were native. They were Mexican, and their families were there. Kids are running around. They're all eating, you know, I was going to say fajitas then. I don't know why. Just like not once in Mexico did we find fajitas.
Lesson
can I just
one
say?
For Mexico, fajitas don't exist.
There were just a bunch of taco stands and all the other food
there
combined.
were burritos as well, wasn't there? That was there. And it was our first taste of proper Mexican food. And you're right, it was the local people were there. Of course, there were some tourists, but it was mostly local people. And then at this point, we're thinking, Cancun seems pretty good to me. It was cheap as well. But again, we were staying away from like the hotel area.
And it's really hard to explain to you where this food market is. So if you're going to Mexico and you want to know, just drop us a message either on Instagram or Facebook or through our website, and we'll give you the address. We'll be able to pinpoint it on a map for you.
Something else I want to point out, we were there in August. The reason why we wanted to get to Cancun quite quickly is because we knew August, September, October, it starts to turn into hurricane season there. So kind of what you think of our summer might not be the best time to go there. But actually, when we were there, we were lucky, weren't we? We had great weather. We just managed to miss all the hurricanes kicking off. Every day was sunny and very hot. So, of course, I'd say, you know, before you're going to go there, check the weather. You don't want to be there in hurricane season. But we were there in August, and weather was great. You right if I jump ahead to the next place already?
Absolutely.
Isla Mujeres, which means Women Island.
Yeah.
Is that right? And it's just, well, we did it in a day trip from Cancun. You can stay there if you want to, but it's easy to get a boat in the morning, a boat back at night, half an hour, 40 minutes boat journey, maybe not even that, from Cancun. So you can go to Women Island, a beautiful spot. It is expensive because it's a small place. It's full of tourists. You sometimes have to pay to be on the beach or get a hotel that has its own private beach. But there are spots, because we found them, there are spots on the beach where it's free and you can chill out. And it was beautiful. I'd say one of the best beaches on our whole round the world trip. Weather was perfect. Isla Mujeres was really beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Isla Mujeres was my favorite beach in the entirety of Mexico. That was definitely my favorite part. It's just beautiful, white sand, clear blue water, absolutely beautiful. Like lots of waves coming in as well. It was great. And unfortunately, we only went to Isla Mujeres for the day. By this point, because we'd been traveling for over a year, we were really tired of kind of moving our bags from place to place. And because it was only, I think, a half an hour ferry or like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So we decided to wake up early and just like go for the day and come back again. So we didn't have to lug our like big bags on. Also, accommodation in Isla Mujeres is like more expensive than it is on mainland, like where Cancun is. So we decided to go for the day. I regret that because once we were there, I really loved it. I would like to have gone for a longer time. And then after that, we went to Isla Holbox, which, if you're wondering, it's spelled Isla Holbox. And I didn't like it there as much. I preferred Isla Mujeres. But from talking to different travellers, I feel like most people prefer Holbox.
Yeah, we'll talk about it soon. People seem to love it. We don't get the hype. But Isla Mujeres is beautiful. I am glad what we did. Just the day trip. I think it was more special, the fact that we only spent one day there. I think if we were there for 2 or 3 days, it might have started to get boring, and accommodation's really expensive, like you said. I think it's a great place to go for the day from Cancun. But, you know, so far, these 2 places, great for a summer holiday, great to party, particularly Cancun. I mean, we couldn't afford it, but Cancun's famous for partying. So if you want sun, sea, parties, drinks, tequila, beers, even Corona in that part of Mexico, I think it was only still like £2 or something, whereas you might pay £4.50 for a Corona here in England. So it's still better prices in England, don't get me wrong. Just as we're going to find out as we go through these 2 episodes about Mexico, this was by far the most expensive part.
We need to get a violin out soon, I think. Everyone's going to feel bad for us that, we've been travelling for over a year. We couldn't pay
£2 for a Corona.
Feel bad for us.
Next location, should we move on?
Yeah.
We've got a lot to talk about.
We have lots of different destinations, lots of different types of food and seaweed and all of that. So lots to talk about.
Let's just talk about how we get to the next destination.
Okay. Isla Holbox. Like I said, it's Holbox. So Holbox. If you don't know about this place, it's kind of more north to Cancun. It's its own tiny little island, and only like the west side of the island is kind of inhabited by hotels and places like that. But you can walk all the way round to the other side. It will take you a while, maybe like an hour or maybe 2 hours to get to the other side. We never did it.
So yeah, Holbox, I wasn't really that impressed with it. It's quite
why?
cool. Yeah, I'm going to go into it. I'm glad you asked. I never thought you'd ask, Amy. Thank you so much. It is an interesting place to get to. When you look at a map, the island itself is quite a peculiar shape, and the only way to get there is you get a bus from wherever you are. I was going to say get a bus from Cancun, but you don't have to.
Get a bus from England.
Yeah, it's the if you go on the website, the Mexican bus company for that area is called ADO. And you go on the ADO website, and you can buy tickets and you can have them on your phone, which is really handy, because in other countries around Latin America, we found that we had to physically go to the bus station to buy our tickets.
Or print them.
Exactly. But really easy in Mexico. ADO, they're good standard of buses, but you do pay for them. Mexico buses all over the country are expensive. We were told that it's because of all the toll roads, apparently. So be prepared for that. But you have to get a bus to this place called Chiquila. Chiquilla. Chiquila. Chiquila. And then from Chiquila you get a ferry. So it's a bit of an effort to get there, and I thought it's fine, it'll be worth it. It looks like an interesting place. Apparently you can see bioluminescent water there, where you touch the water and it lights up because of all the plankton.
At night time.
Of course, at night time. But the island itself, I just didn't think it was that nice, the town. It didn't help that there'd just been a lot of rain. I know we just spoke about the weather in Cancun being good, but the day we arrived, there was a torrential storm. It just meant all the roads were flooded, and it made the whole place muddy, so you couldn't go anywhere and not get mud all up your legs and up your feet. Everyone
ended up just taking their shoes off and walk around barefoot, which I actually really liked. I just felt like a local walking around with no shoes on.
Yeah, that's fine. And like the island itself, the town had quite a unique, cool vibe, I guess, but I just didn't think it was that beautiful. And then when we got to the beach, like from a distance and in pictures, it looked amazing. It looks like white beaches. But when you get there, it's rock hard. It's like lots of little shells, and the water wasn't very nice or clear. And maybe something had happened and we were there on a bad day.
Do you not like it then?
Maybe something bad had happened. But the whole time we were on the beach, all we could smell was sewage.
Oh, yeah.
It stank.
Yeah, it did smell
hard
a lot.
Beach, water wasn't clear, and it stank.
So when you say hard beach, it's like, yeah, everything you're walking on, it's sharp. They're like tiny little shells everywhere rather than grains of sand. like nothing was soft. So when you're laying on the beach, you're laying on rocks, basically, like big hard rocks. And so just nothing was comfortable. Like if you're a backpacker and you can't afford to like buy chairs for the day, which is going to be like 20-30 quid in Isla Holbox, because then they want you to buy drinks as well on top of that, and then also order your food from there. Yeah, it's just, I don't think it's good for backpackers. But again, I don't want you to fully listen to what we're saying, because
everyone says they love it.
Yeah, we've met loads of people that have said it's their favourite beach in the entire world. And I'm like, but it's really uncomfortable. You can't sit down anywhere. You can't sunbathe. I mean, we're being very picky. It's, you know, the Riviera Maya. Like, it's amazing. It is beautiful. And like, if you want to get your Instagram pictures, it's going to be great. There's swings in the water. It will look picture perfect. But in reality, when you're there, I just don't want you to see pictures and go, oh my God, that's amazing. And then get there like we did and be like, oh, what's everybody saying? Like, if you want a really comfortable, beautiful beach, I would say go to Isla Mujeres.
And let's be honest, there's a lot of you guys out there. If all you care about is the good shot for Instagram, then go to Holbox Island, Isla Holbox, because it is good for that. I agree. I just wasn't impressed with the rest. Like in town, again, it's another holiday place. There's plenty of bars, plenty of restaurants. You could have a good time there if you've got the cash. Backpacking, just maybe not. I think that's where we're coming from. Maybe a lot of people like it because it is their holiday and they eat in really nice restaurants and drink all they want and, you know, spoil themselves. But for a backpacker, maybe not.
No, but there are flamingos on this island because...
Oh, yeah, if you walk to the right side, I think, the east. Yeah, the east side.
Yeah, so we walked there to go find the bioluminescent bay because that's part of my bucket list to see that. But we walked, I think, like 50 minutes to an hour to get there. We were bitten to absolute beep with like a ton of mosquitoes.
Never seen so many mosquitoes in my life.
Like I get bit all the time and I have never once seen a mosquito on me at the time that it's biting me. And I think that night was the first time I'd seen it and it happened like 10 times.
Yeah, I saw like 20.
And I thought I battered them all away. But oh no, I was covered. And so were you, and you never get bit.
Yeah, they're not normally attracted to me, but they were all over me. And I think I made a mistake. I think that was actually the west side of the island to see the bioluminescent. But we couldn't see them because it was a full moon. So you have to plan your trip right. It has to be like as dark as possible. Clear sky. Yeah, clear sky, but no full moon. And then you might see them. But even then, I don't think it's... I know it is a real thing. I know you can see it. Is it Puerto Rico is the best place, we think? But... I kind of think it's all a bit of a con, really. I don't think it's never like the pictures.
You're being mighty positive in this episode.
Realistic.
So, Isla Holbox was a good trip.
Yeah, just, you know, but if we never went, we would have regretted it and we would have wondered.
I think you should go, though. If you're wondering about Mexico and if you're going there, like, if you're a single traveller or a couple, I think you should go, though. Don't listen to us. I mean, turn the podcast off.
It's not that great, but you should go.
Just keep expectations low in every place that you go. Keep them low and you'll be fine.
Should we move on to somewhere that, again, I thought was all right? It was okay.
I like this next place.
I'm not going to rave about it.
I like the next place. So to get to the next place, we first had to get a bus from...
that place where you get the ferry from.
Chiquila. That's it. So we came off Isla Holbox back to Chiquila off the boat. And then we bussed all the way to Playa del Carmen. So Carmen Beach. That's what that means. Playa means beach.
Good. Another very tourist place, a bit like Cancun. But we didn't stick around. From there, we got the ferry to Cozumel, the island of Cozumel.
Cozumel. And we'd heard really good things about this place, particularly from Sam and Nat, who we had met in the San Blas Islands. They'd been there a few weeks before us, so they gave us some really good tips. One of them being hire a motor.
A what? Pardon?
I was thinking of it in Spanish, which is moto, but then I was like, what is the word in English? So I just said motor.
There you go, kids. Hire a motor.
I sound like I'm like 97. What do you call them? A moped?
A moped, yeah.
Or is that a motorbike?
I thought a quad bike for a second. No, a moped.
A moped.
A scooter.
Buy yourself a motor.
A motorized bicycle. Yeah, a scooter, moped.
Yeah, so just get one of those.
There you go. Cozumel's done. No, yeah, so where we stayed was in like the main part of town. A nice hostel, actually. You're going to hear from a lady that works there very soon. And it was right in the centre of town. We were close to everything. Got a good deal on a moped because we mentioned the hostel we're staying at, and they give you like a 20% discount, I think. We think we paid around like somewhere between £15 and £20 for the day, which for that part of Mexico is good. Like Southeast Asia, that's expensive, but for this part of Mexico, it's good. And from the town, because there's not really a beach you can go to in town, so you kind of have to get around the island. We drove all the way around the island. We did pretty much all of it. It was a really nice day. Stopped at a few beaches and restaurants and stuff. Saw the sights. Some of the beaches, like a lot of that part of Mexico, you have to pay for, or, you know, there's private hotels on the beach. But we found plenty of free beaches, and we did have a nice day. I just didn't think that any of it was particularly special. But we have been told that Cozumel is the place to go to if you like scuba diving. Apparently it's like the best place in the world, or one of the best places in the world for scuba diving.
But going back to the beaches, so if you want to go to a beach that's free, if you drive to Playa Mia Grand Beach Park, if you park in their car park and then walk to the left of the building, walk past the building and get onto the beach, that's a free part of the beach, and it's beautiful.
That was good. I really enjoyed it there. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, we hired some goggles, like snorkeling goggles from our hostel, and then just snorkeled around that bit. Though we didn't see much, like it's not like there's a reef there, or like a massive reef there. It's basically a few rocks and there's lots of fish that go around it. But I did see some baby seahorses for the first time, which was really cool. Like, you were sunbathing on the beach, so I saw them by myself. But no, that was really cool. There's like diverse wildlife around there.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy that beach in particular. I just thought the
wildlife or sea life? Can I say wildlife?
Yeah, people don't really include sea animals as animals, but they are. It's like people say, oh, I'm vegetarian, but you eat fish. Oh, yeah, of course. Eat them disgusting things. Like, they're still animals, aren't they? So, yeah, I'd say wildlife. But Cozumel, just the whole time, yeah, I had a good day. I just don't think it was anywhere amazing. Do you agree with that, though, don't you?
I feel really bad because I feel like we're not really promoting this part of Mexico.
I know, but we're going to get to somewhere soon, which is one of the best places in the world.
Yeah, I think it's because we're trying to manage your expectations. These are incredible places.
Oh, they're nice.
I mean, like, if someone could take me back to Holbox today, my least favourite one, yeah, take me back today. I'm in rainy Manchester.
I'd rather stay in Manchester.
No, I'd 100% rather be in Holbox. But yeah, they're beautiful places, but we're just trying to manage your expectations. Another thing that you can do in the island of Cozumel, if you want to, there's an ecological park. We never went there because it was closed by the time we'd got there because, you know, we're expert travellers.
It was like 4 o'clock, I think, and they were closing it for the day.
Yeah, but no, we weren't aiming to get there anyway. But I know you pay to get in. I think it might be like the equivalent of £5. But it's called Punta Sur Beach Eco Park. And there's like a lighthouse and a bunch of different things that you can do in there. I feel like it's a place where there's like go-karting and stuff like that. Just kind of a fun eco park.
It looks like it's a nice beach. I'm actually looking at pictures now because we didn't get to do it, and it does look beautiful. Yeah, so I'd head to that south part of the island, and yeah, my phone says it's 4. Oh yeah, it closes at 4 o'clock local time. That's early, isn't it? But that does look beautiful, but we didn't get there, unfortunately. But nearby, we did go to a reggae cafe by the beach. We sat in like some hammocks and some swings, got some food there, and it was a nice end to the day. I had a great day going out on the scooter, don't get me wrong. It just did blow me away. All right, we can stop talking for a bit. Let's take a break, Amy. At this point, we wanted to get a Mexican's opinion on this very touristic coast.
My name is Judith, and the hostel's name is Awikiani.
Okay, what does Awikiani mean?
It's traveler, but in the Nahuatl language.
Is that a native language here in Mexico?
Yeah, it's one of the native languages here in Mexico. It was used by the Aztecas or Mexicas, that is the real name for that people that used to live in the center of Mexico.
Judith goes on to explain how this region of Mexico is very different from the rest.
Here's one of the most touristic places in Mexico, so that it's like everything, or most of the things, are focused on the tourist people, and I think that's why it's kind of different from the rest of the places in Mexico.
Do you think all the tourism here is good for Mexico, or is it taking away the Mexican culture?
Well, I think it's good because, okay, they know about something about Mexico, but not, in my opinion, not the real Mexico. Because yes, here we have a lot of original culture from Mayan people. It still live here in this area, the Mayan people, and also they still speak in most of the people. I mean, maybe not most, but a lot of people, they still speak the language, Maya language. So, okay, they can, but here we don't have a lot of traditions or the most original food, for example, than the rest of the states in Mexico, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Now, before we arrived here, people told us that this whole coast of Mexico has a problem with seaweed. What is happening? Do you know why is there seaweed here? And is there anything that anyone can do about it to avoid the seaweed?
Exactly about that point is the bad thing to be a very touristic place, because I think the main problem that makes the seaweed in that amounts that we are seeing those days is because of pollution. So here we receive sometimes in the high season about 12 cruise ships per day. So
Whoa.
each one with, I don't know, 1,000 of people. So that's one of the things that it's making a big problem with the pollution in general, with the reefs, with the seaweed, and also all the pollution in the world, because the temperature of the water is increasing, and is that also a big problem that makes the seaweed like we are seeing these days.
Okay.
So that's the bad thing about being very touristic, and the government here hasn't enough control in the touristic places. They are exploiting a lot of these natural resources.
Okay, and final question from me. We've told you about our trip in Mexico. We want to go everywhere. So what do you think? Do you think in 3 months we can do it? And what can we expect to see in the real Mexico?
Okay. Well, one of the things is the people, because here in this area you can find people from everywhere, almost everywhere. So the rest of the states, I don't know, it's more like maybe the 90% people living there is real Mexican people. And, well, like I said before, the food. The food there is like very, very good, because here, okay, that's the thing that I would like to about the food. Here you have some dishes like very popular, like nachos, burritos, and okay, all that kind of dishes that, yeah, they contain Mexican ingredients, but they are not real Mexican food. Actually, they are not Mexican in original. So you can find in the rest of the states much better food, Mexican food, and cheaper, much cheaper too.
Better
Yes.
food and cheaper. Where are you from in Mexico?
Jalisco.
Where's that?
It's a state in the Pacific side of Mexico. It's almost in the middle of Mexico, the Pacific side.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. I think it's like you can find a lot of things, Mexican things, very traditional things that are original from that state, like tequila or mariachi. Actually, you have a little town, a beautiful town that is called Tequila, Jalisco, because it's where they start making the tequila beverage.
Briefly, just looking back, did you prefer the whole Cancun Mayan Riviera area, or the traditional side with like, they're called pueblos mágicos, which is like magic towns.
You know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
but
traditional Mexico for sure. Like, I was enjoying this area of Mexico that we're talking about now. I like the nice weather and the beaches, but the whole time I was just thinking, this Mexican adventure hasn't started yet.
Okay.
But yeah, same question to you, because you liked it more than I did, this area. We haven't finished talking about it yet. We've got some cracking places coming up.
Yeah, I was very split, but I actually think I'm like 60% towards the traditional side and 40% this area of Maya Riviera, mainly because of a place called Bacalao, which we're going to talk about very soon. But yeah, I just thought it was a really beautiful place. If it's like your honeymoon that you're going for, or a family holiday, anything, I think it is a brilliant place of the world. And if someone said to me, I want to go on holiday, I want some nice beaches, it's probably the first place I would say.
Yeah, and I think it's all safe because there's so many tourists there. Well, the thing is, compared to what you hear about Mexico, we're going to tell you that like we thought all of it was safe. Yeah, like bad stuff happens everywhere, but of course, and there were some areas that I'd probably, I wouldn't hang around on my own. But anyway, we'll get into that later. But this whole tourist coast is safe because it's so reliant on tourists. It's kind of run by the mafia, which sounds scary, but what that means is like they don't want the tourists to get in trouble, because if the tourists stop coming, the mafia stop getting their money, because they own a lot of the things there, like hotels, casinos.
Taxi ranks.
Yeah, like they run the taxi ranks. You won't find Uber in this part of Mexico because the taxis are all run by the mafia. So if there's one brave Uber driver that wants to start, offering that service, he ain't going to be around for very long. But what this means actually is that it's safe for tourists. So yeah, for a family holiday, of course, this is the part of Mexico you'd come to.
Let's move on to the next destination, which is Tulum. Now, like I just said, if you're coming here for your honeymoon, I think Tulum is a great place to come. We were there for our wedding anniversary, so we stayed in an upmarket version of where we'd been staying. Like we kind of splashed out a little bit, but even that, it wasn't splashing out. It wasn't that expensive. We got an amazing deal, and I think it worked out like £38 a night, where it should have been, I don't know, £60-70 a night. But it was this beautiful place with a pool. And a lot of the places, when you're booking accommodation in Tulum, I would say definitely book a place that includes your bike, because you kind of need a bicycle to get round.
Yeah.
I'm talking bicycle, not a motor.
A motor bicycle.
But one that you pedal yourself, because you need that transport to get around. Almost like 90% of the hotels and hostels offer free bike rental within the price of your board. So I think the place we were staying in, it had breakfast included and our bikes. Was there anything else? Oh, and also use of their sister hotel.
Yeah, no, this was good because we were staying in Tulum town. I didn't really realise at the time before we booked it, but you can either stay in the town or stay at the beach part, and they're not the same thing. They're a little bit of a journey away, but you can go on a bike. We did. You can cycle it. So because our hotel in town had free bicycles, yeah, we could cycle to the beach. I think it still took us like 45 an hour maybe.
No, I think like 40 minutes.
40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes to cycle to the hotel on the beach, which was, again, it was connected to our hotel, so we could go there for free, which was actually a much posher hotel. So again, had a swimming pool and it was on the beach, but you could sit on the beach or you couldn't swim because that sea there was infested with seaweed. It would be impossible to swim. But this part of Tulum, by the beach, there's loads of hotels, there's clubs, there's like mega clubs there. If you want to party, I know we said Cancun is the place, but actually this part of the coast, I think Tulum is the ultimate party place. Chill by the pool in the day and party at night. There was a particular place, like some sort of project.
Yeah, it's hard to say this one. It's Papaya Playa Project.
I think it's a really big, like expensive nightclub, but it's famous.
So if you're there for like New Year's, I'd say that's the place to go. Yeah, it's a bit of a major club. Really good party there. I'd say that this whole area is particularly by the beach. It's got a very Ibiza feel to it. You know, everything's white, very dreamy. Everything's really pretty and luxurious.
Agree.
It's got a great vibe. I really love it. And it's really known for its food scene here in Tulum. So if you go online and say like best place to eat, it will come up with loads and loads of blogs. And that's how we chose where we'd go for our anniversary meal.
Yeah, this is more like posh restaurants, like more of a dining experience rather than just getting tacos on the street. And we will talk about food soon. Posh restaurants, the town itself, yeah, it's very trendy, isn't it? It's very, like you said, Ibizan, bohemian. There's some very fancy Airbnbs and hotels in Tulum town and the beach. It's weird though, because you're in a really fancy posh area and then you turn around the corner and then the rest of it looks a bit like a building site.
It's still kind of half built, isn't it?
Yeah, but when it's all finished, it looks like a very up and coming place. But yeah, and again, for Mexico prices, it is expensive.
But this was also the first place that we experienced cenotes.
Yeah, what is a cenote?
Yeah, so it's actually a sinkhole, which doesn't sound very luxurious in English, but in Spanish, I think a cenote sounds really nice. But they are absolutely beautiful. So it is literally a hole in the ground, and there are hundreds of thousands in this whole area. But we first started to see them from Tulum. And from here, particularly, there were some really great ones. And so, you know how I said you could get free bike hire? You can ride those bikes. And again, it's like another 45-minute kind of bike ride up a main road. But once you get there, there's some really nice cenotes. And so when you go to them, you normally pay a little bit of money because they're on private land. So normally it's Mexican farmers that own these cenotes, and they've kind of made them into part of their business. So not only do they grow crops or cattle and, you know, sort out their animals, they've also got this going. It's cheap. So I'd say like the most you'll ever pay to get into a cenote is like £5. But on average, they're around £2 to £3 each to get in. And once you're in, you can spend the whole day there if you want. But they're really amazing, aren't they? Just clear blue water, fish in them, and because it's rainwater, you can jump in. The one that we went to from Tulum is called Cenote Calavera, because Calavera means skull. And the reason it's called skull is because when the sun shines on this particular one, it's got a big hole in it from the ground, which you go into, and there's like a ladder to get in, or you can jump in. But there's also two smaller holes. So once the sun shines, it casts a shadow in the water of a skull because it looks like two eyes and a big mouth.
Cenotes are a really fun way to spend the day. And yeah, in Tulum, it's possible to cycle to several in one day. And it's just such a nice, refreshing, fun way to spend your time. We only went to the one, I think, because it was quite a bit of cycling. And when we got there, we enjoyed it so much, we thought, let's just stay here. But this whole area of Mexico, you said it, Amy, it's famous for cenotes. They're everywhere. They were sacred to the Mayan people. And that was actually their only source of drinking water. The ones that lived like in the jungle. No rivers or anything like that, no lakes to drink from. So these kind of underground caves, that was their only source of drinking water, and they were considered quite holy as well. And even occasionally people were sacrificed and thrown into them, which is strange because that's where they get their drinking water from. But nowadays, just such a fun way to spend a day.
So if you do go to any cenotes and they say you're not allowed to swim in them, it's likely because there's still a lot of skeletons at the bottom, and they're still trying to, you know, work on them or find new ones, or
just preserve them.
Preserve them, and it's a really sacred place. So that's why you can't swim in them. I think there's one where Chichen Itza is in that ground, and yeah, you're definitely not allowed to swim in that. So yeah, if you're not allowed to swim in, it's because they're sacred and they're trying to preserve the skeletons on the bottom.
So Tulum, trendy place, good for parties. Can't swim in the sea. You can swim in the cenotes.
3 words on Tulum.
Trendy.
Bohemian.
And cenote.
Good. Okay.
Done. Let's move on, because a short bus journey south from Tulum is one of our favourite places in the world. Bacalar.
Okay. Bacalar. It is my favourite place in Mexico. I think I'm going to just put it out there.
In Mexico.
It's my favourite place. So this is known as the Maldives of Mexico. Okay. It is stunning. So this isn't seawater. This has a whole big lake Is it a lake or is it a river?
Lagoon.
Lagoon, sorry. It's a lagoon. And they call it La Laguna de las Siete Colores. So, the 7-color lagoon. And so many places, particularly in Latin America, call places the 7-color this, the 7-color that, you know, whether it's a mountain or
water
or whatever. And you're always like, yeah, I guess it's got a couple of different colors, but I wouldn't call it 7 colors. This place, Bacalar, I would call their lagoon like the 10-color lagoon.
It's amazing. It's really, when the sun's out, when it's a clear blue sky, the sun's shining, yeah, the colors of this lagoon are incredible. You can obviously swim in it. It is by far the best water I've ever swum in my life.
And
now,
we've been to the Maldives.
Exactly. It looks like the Maldives because the Maldives water is incredible, but it's still seawater, so it's salty. But
in the Maldives.
when you're swimming in this freshwater lagoon in Bacalar, you feel like, I feel a bit like I was in like an advert, like in a commercial for like, I don't know, you know, like I can imagine a commercial for eye drops, you know, when you got dry eyes and then you can imagine someone putting eye drops in their eye and then they just feel like their whole body's been hydrated and then it would cut scene and they'd be in this like beautiful lagoon feeling the most hydrated they've ever felt in their life. That's how I felt in it. I didn't drink the water, but I felt like you could. It was so clean. The place was beautiful. It was, one of the most stunning places I've ever been in my life. We just spent, I think we extended our time. We're supposed to be there for 3 days. We stayed for 4. Just every day swimming in this lagoon. We loved it, didn't we?
Yeah. Now, there's a few places that you can go in and swim at the lagoon for free, and that's where the locals go. There's a couple of like piers that you walk up.
Yeah, you can see from the town, you can see the footpaths. They're quite, you have to find them at first, but once you're there, it's obvious. It's like, oh yeah, that's quite clear. So just keep walking along the front of like the seafront, if you like. You'll see them.
Yeah, and it's normally when you get to like a park area,
yeah,
walk through the park towards the water and you'll get there and it's completely free. Or just ask a local, all the locals know where it is. But if you do pay, it is very cheap. So where we were staying, we had like a 5-minute walk to get to the lagoon. And I think it worked out like 20p.
Yeah, it was that cheap.
Yeah, and then so once you pay that, you can spend the entire day there if you want. Or actually, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this because it is so cheap, you know, and people are working here, so like I wouldn't take the mick every night. But we turned up where there was only like half an hour left where it was about to close.
We did.
And we were fine with paying 20p each because it's so cheap and it was so nice. And I think it was our last night, so we really wanted to go to the lagoon. And I think because we'd gone there every day, the guys kind of recognised us and they let us in for free, which was nice.
Very nice. But just some advice for you guys. Try and find a hotel which is near the lagoon or on the lagoon. We were on a cheap budget, so like Amy said, we were a little walk, but a 5-minute walk away, no problem.
Yeah, actually, I remember accommodation being quite hard to book. So it's somewhere I would book in advance, particularly if you're going there in the high season, because we wanted to stay in the Yak Hostel. But it's a very busy hostel, very popular. It's somewhere where they give you like breakfast included and you're right on the lagoon there. You can jump off of their pier and be there the whole day. It looked really nice because we actually went in there to start a tour, but I prefer where we were staying actually. It was in like huts. It was more private, better for a couple, I would say. But if you're like a single traveller on your own, I would definitely recommend going to the Yak Hostel. And the tour we did from there was the stand-up paddleboard sunrise tour, which was incredible. One of my favourite things we did on the entire trip. We were wanting to go stand-up paddleboarding for a really long time. We just never got round to it. And what better place to do it in the Maldives of Mexico? And you get up at like 5 a.m. As we were walking to this Yak Hostel, everyone was still partying. There was this big club playing music. It was like 5, 6 in the morning. We were walking there. And then you get on your boards and you paddle out and you watch the sunrise, and it was just stunning, wasn't it?
It was amazing. One of the best things I've ever done. And it was a nice tour as well. Good tour guide. Like, it was fun. And when the tour's finished, you're out there for like 2 or 3 hours watching the sunrise. You come back just before it starts to get too hot in the day. I think we're back by 10 a.m. And then part of the tour, they lay on this breakfast. And it was a really nice way to spend a morning. But yeah, the sunrise, you heard it correct, not sunset, sunrise tour. You have to do it. It was amazing. So speak to the Yak Hostel, do the sunrise paddleboard tour. They also taught us a bit of history. Do you remember this? I thought this was very interesting. In Bacalar, I don't know when, good start. But there was a big famous battle took place between the British and the Spanish. Well, what happened was actually the British didn't want the Spanish there because we wanted that part of the land. So we started giving the local people weapons to fight the Spanish. And the Spanish said, all right, I'll tell you what, you stop giving the locals weapons, and in return, we'll give you what is now Belize, because we're really close to Belize at this point. And that's why to this day in Belize, they speak English, because it's a little bit of that Caribbean that the Spanish gave to the English.
That is very interesting. I think on that part of the tour, because we could go either two ways. You could either go with one guide and do a bit of yoga on the stand-up paddleboards, which is what I did, or you could go to your little geeky history lesson. Which is what you did.
History over yoga every day. Who's with me? All right. Like, we could talk way more about Bacalar. Oh, actually, we also hired a scooter that time as well, because you have to drive there a little bit south, even closer to Belize. You go to the Rapids place, Los Rapidos or something.
Los Rapidos.
Which is fun.
Sí.
There's like, it's a restaurant and it's near a part of like this running water, and it's quite a strong current, and the idea is you walk one end, you get in the water, float down, it's really fun, and then you go back to the restaurant, chill, have some food and drinks, and then you just keep repeating that. I didn't think it was all that. I didn't think it was that great, and you have to pay to get in. I remember it being a bit expensive,
I remember being surprised by the price.
So, yeah, go to the Rapids if you want to, but I wouldn't say it's essential. The lagoon in, like, Bacalar town, that's essential.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Right, moving on to our next place, Valladolid. Now, I think this was really special for Nick because it was the first town that we got to that felt very Mexican. Can you explain, like, where in the Mayan Riviera it is?
Yeah, so you're hoping that catches on, aren't you, the Mayan Riviera? I've never heard anyone call it that before. I called it the Yucatán Peninsula. But we can go with the Mayan Riviera.
Mayan Riviera, oh my God.
So we had to go a bit inland, but also north, into the state of Yucatan. So with this whole time we've been talking, we're in the state of Quintana Roo. Is that right?
Yeah.
But we're now in Yucatan. Valladolid was a treat. I loved it. This is when I felt like I'd arrived in Mexico. So the town itself, weird but fascinating. Like, all the buildings were kind of like big kind of rectangle boxes, weren't they?
Really colourful as well.
Oh, yeah, colourful. It had a town square, which in Mexico they call their town squares Zócalo. That's it, the Zócalo. And it just looked traditional, colourful, beautiful. Straight away I noticed a drop in price. We did some laundry for like £1.50, like a whole load of laundry. And I thought,
heaven.
Mexico, like, we've arrived. There's lots of street food, lots of tacos, a
really
great
good food market.
Great food market.
Kissing chairs.
Oh yeah, in the Zócalo, in the town centre. You're right. There's like these white chairs, but they kind of face each other. You're right. So you can be on your date.
You can kiss each other. They're beautiful. So rather than benches, it's like two chairs that are connected, but they're twisting so that they face each other. But they're beautiful little chairs. It's just a really unique little feature of these particular towns. And I think we saw it here and also in Campeche, but then the rest of Mexico, we didn't see it. So it's just really cute. I felt it was a really rural town. Again, brilliant cenotes. This is where our favourite cenote was.
This one was epic. It's where you do like a Tarzan swing and drop into the water, into the cenote. It's so much fun.
And it's like a cave one as well. So you have to walk down a bunch of steps to get inside the cenote. And then there's almost like a hole in the top so you can see in, and the light floods in, and it just gives everything this beautiful tone. And everything just looks stunning. The turquoise water, and you like jump in and you can see all the fish. It's amazing.
It was amazing.
Definitely our favourite one. So if you want to go to that one, you'll have to stay in the town Valladolid. And the cenote is called San Lorenzo Oxman, or Oshman is how you'd pronounce it. It's kind of like an estancia, like, it's hard to explain what that is, like a manor or like a home. So a family that owns all this land.
Very grand.
It is oh my God, beautiful. Like when you turn up there, you just think, oh, if only I had inherited this.
Yeah, it's like this big estate with a swimming pool, and in their back garden, they have a cenote, which is amazing.
So what I thought was really good about this place as well, there's 2 different pricing systems. So you can either pay, I can't remember how much it was, but like maybe £3 or £4 to just use the cenote and the pool. Fine. Or you can pay like £5-6, and that would get you access to the pool and the cenote, but also your lunch included. So that money goes towards your lunch, and they give you like this set menu that they bring to you. And the food looked really good. We went with the first option. Again, we were traveling cheap, and I think we brought some food with us or something. We were just trying to keep it really cheap and eat street food, you know, but we walked from Valladolid to the cenote, which is possible, but it is a long walk. So if you are going to do it, I'd really recommend taking water and some sunscreen. I know I sound like your mum, but honestly, like we were walking there, and then some tourists drove past in a car, luckily, and they just picked us up. We weren't hitchhiking or anything or putting our hand out, but they just picked us up. And actually, once we got in the car, we were like, oh, I'm really glad, because we were starting to get quite sunburnt.
I think it could be like a 2-hour walk.
Really?
Between an hour and 2-hour walk, so there and back. So, you know, it's doable. Wear some comfy shoes. But yeah, it's hot. But we were lucky that a nice French lady picked us up, so we accidentally hitchhiked. But that was fantastic. Valladolid, what I would say to everyone is, it's close enough to all these tourist parts we've just been talking about. So if you want to have a holiday in Mexico, you know, like Cancun area or Tulum, whatever, fine, do that. But just to have like 2 or 3 days, visit Valladolid, because that will give you a little taste of real Mexico, and it's so close to all the tourist parts. And it's also very good for like one of the biggest tourist attractions in the world, Chichen Itza. We're going to talk about it because it's somewhere that a lot of you are going to want to go to. We did. We thought we're close by. We have to do it. Wasn't a highlight for us particularly. We've just realised that this part of traveling is not really our thing. Seeing these so-called world wonders, I don't feel very connected to them. They're all very expensive. But Chichen Itza, cheapest way to do it. From Valladolid, you'd have to ask your accommodation. But in the town centre, you can get colectivo taxis. They're like little mini buses. You go there, you wait for one. When they're full, they go. So you could be waiting 2 minutes, could be waiting 2 hours. But because Chichen Itza is a popular tourist attraction, there'll be loads of people going. Get there early, no problem. We did it. Nice and cheap. Of course, when you get to Chichen Itza, you have to pay the entrance fee, which I think was like, I don't know, 30 or 40 quid each.
It was. I think just before we'd got there, they'd raised the prices and they'd almost doubled. But the bus you were just talking about, I remember thinking it cost about £1 each to get there. And it was like an hour journey, wasn't it? So that was amazing.
And from Cancun, you could pay like, I don't know, maybe £100 or £200 each for a day tour.
For a day tour,
Chichen Itza,
which isn't worth it. Do not pay those prices, because go the local way. You're going to get there. You know, it might be slightly slower, maybe 15 minutes, half an hour. Do it cheap.
Hell yeah. Because, yeah, you're going to go. You're going to want to get your picture at Chichen Itza. We did it as well. But
not everything's about Instagram, Nick.
But what is Chichen Itza, Amy? Go.
Well, Nick, let me tell you, it's an old Mayan city and was very important. It was a centre of political and economic activity around 600 AD. I just plucked that from my brain.
Top of your head. Well done.
Yeah. By this point, 600 AD, it was already one of the largest cities in the Mayan world. That is mind-blowing. The largest pyramid was built specifically to echo animal noises when you clap. This was very fun when we were there, kind of freaking everyone out with it, and then seeing people that were confused looking at you, why are you clapping? But it's entertaining nonetheless. But when the sun is perfectly overhead, which happens twice a year, so you have the equinox in the spring and autumn, you can see a shadow of a snake winding all the way down the pyramid.
It's very clever. And of course, these 2 days a year, Chichen Itza's packed. That's when everyone wants to go and see the shadow of the snake. I think we saw a YouTube video of it. I'm not convinced. Doesn't really look like a snake to me, but it's very clever that they've built it. So yeah, those 2 days of the year, the sun creates like very specific shadows. So yeah, fine if you like archaeological sites. Mexico's got loads of them. It's got ruins everywhere. We've just realized we like history, but just not too interested in visiting these ruins. What was better for me was getting a lime drink and sitting in those
Kissing
chairs. I enjoyed that more. There might be like a band in the square playing Mexican music. That's way better to me.
Yeah, for us, sitting on the street with the Mexicans nowadays is more interesting. But for example, my Mexican friend Gabby, who I went to school with when I was younger, we met her later on in Mexico, so you will hear from her probably in our next Mexican episode. But her and her husband, they live for this stuff. Like, they love archaeological sites, and what better country to go to? So, you know, if that is something that you're interested in, then, you know, Mexico and Guatemala, that's all the area that the Mayans covered.
Yeah.
This is your place. If that's what you're into, here and Egypt, I think, are your two best countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is stunning. I think it's incredible that they built it all those years ago. It's so clever how you can clap and the sound comes back to you. If you don't know what that sounds like, let me show you now.
And so, yeah, you'll see so many people standing around looking like lunatics, clapping. Everyone does it. But yeah, it's the thing to do when you're at Chichén Itzá, so you won't be alone doing it.
Y nosotros esta noche vamos a dar inicio como en todas las fiestas. El inicio de una bonita fiesta es una vaquería y el inicio de todas las vaquerías son los tradicionales aires yucatecos.
Our next destination in this this maxi trip around Mexico was Mérida.
Yes, Mérida. To me, it was like a larger Valladolid, but not. It was like more of a city. Valladolid was a town. Mérida was a city. Again, a proper Mexican city. So, you know, we're getting into traditional Mexico now. I preferred Valladolid. I thought it had way more charm. But we had a very good experience in Mérida because this was the time where we couch surfed for the first time in Mexico.
Oh, it was so good as well. We stayed with a woman called Lily, and she was an incredible host. I know we say that about all of our hosts because they are all incredible, but you know, she was so great. She's just the kindest woman. She's like one of those women that adopts children and
she does,
brings them into her home. She's just the most loving person.
Yeah, very nice host, very caring person. Just happy to share her culture.
I just remembered as well. She showed us our favourite breakfast in Mexico, didn't she?
Yeah, and actually, it's on the list later. We will talk about that. Yeah, she did. You're right. So she educated us on food, Mexican culture.
She took us to a cenote.
Yeah, like one of the many things that we did with her. She even took us to one of her friends' parties because she took us to a beach nearby called Progreso. And then on the way back, she was like, "Oh, a friend of mine's having a barbecue. Do you want to come?" Like, yeah, great. There's Colombian people there as well as Mexicans.
Yeah.
In this like big house with a pool. Like at midnight, we were jumping in their pool. You know, you've heard this all before, but the type of experiences only couchsurfing can bring. So she was very adamant that Mérida and the state Yucatán was a great place to live. So we asked her, does she think that Mérida is the best place to live in Mexico?
It's a safe place. The first time is a cheap place. We are very, very kind people, cute, familiar, friendly.
And so Mérida is in the state of Yucatán, but so many people talk about Yucatán that it's like a really good state, it's really good for food, but yeah, why do you think it's a good state?
Definitely the food is an amazing, well, it's in the top 10 maybe in Mexico, because in all Mexico have a lot of kind of food. Every state have a typical food, and maybe the big one is in Yucatán. For example, we have tacos too. Like the dishes is very, very different because use spices and condiments typical here. Chilies only you can find here, like habanero or others. And we have an influence to Lebanese food and Chinese food. It's part of our food. Like kibis is in the originally is from Lebanese food, but now it's very Yucatec. Yeah, in the
Didn't know
country, think is Yucateca.
What would you say is one thing that someone has to eat if they come here? Like the name of the food.
Have a lot. Really. Like cochinita pibil, lechon al horno, panuchos, albutes, papazules, relleno negro, queso relleno, los kibis.
Many.
That is a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
Conchita?
100 or more.
Wow.
Cochinita.
Cochinita pibil. Yeah, we've heard a lot about that. That's famous. And
We've eaten it a lot.
for people listening, it's like pulled pork, like we'd have back home. Pulled pork in tacos, delicious. And you mentioned Lebanese and Chinese, but I'm interested to know, do you feel a strong connection to the ancient Mayan people? Do you feel a strong connection, or do you have a stronger connection to like Spanish culture?
No, definitely with Mayan people, because in Yucatan still use some words in Maya or in our real life, in the daily. For example, we said, I heard in my back, and we said my campach, for example, it's a Mayan word, and we mix Spanish with Mayan words, is frequently listen to that. We know our history, we know to dance sometimes, the folklore, typical Yucatecan.
That makes sense because this region of Mexico is where you'll find Chichen Itza and Coba and all the kind of ruins. They're more here, right?
Yeah, we have a lot. Uxmal, Xcambó, Labna, Caba, Uxmal, Oxquintoc, Calquetoc, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more than 50 ruins.
Wow.
And maybe more than 500 cenotes, maybe, I don't know, but it's a lot.
Are you proud to be Mexican?
Of course, because I think Mexico is a place very traditional, with a lot of traditional things, culture, history. Our families are close. I feel very emotional when I travel and I see my flag, and I feel very proud because I know what's the meaning that flag. We fight a lot for to live free, for to have a free religion, or you can choose your school or everything. We are very free. Maybe I don't like when I listen Mexico is a lot of narco traffic, because it's not true, or it's very dangerous, or stall, or no, I feel bad because I say no, you need to go in Mexico and to know the people, the food, the music. You have a lot of kind of music, and I feel very bad when the people think that bad things, only bad things. In every place exist dangerous things. Every place exists bad persons, and it's not true.
That was Lily talking about Yucatán, and I love their accent there. Like, so Yucatán is obviously spelt with a Y, but the way they say Yucatán, like, I just love their accent over there, like that particular area. It sounds so good.
And Lily, great host, nice lady, proud of where she's from, and rightly so. You should be.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about la comida, the food.
Yeah, she was talking about food, wasn't she? So let's set the record straight about a few things with Mexico. So, tacos. Yes. On the daily, we had tacos. By the end of Mexico, let's be honest, I think Amy feels like she can never eat a taco again. Like you were done, weren't you?
Yeah. In the whole 3 months, how many tacos do you think you ate?
I definitely, because some days I did, some days I didn't, but the days I did, I had loads. So on average, probably easy, like 2 a day, the whole 3 months we were there. And tacos, that for people here back at home in England, they're like small fajitas, really, aren't they? They're in tortilla bread, which could be corn or or like flour bread. Really, it's just meat. And then you might have some onions, like a bit of
Coriander,
squeeze a lemon or a lime on it. And then you have some sauce, but like hot sauce. And it's It's kind of watery, like green or red sauce, quite thin, but packs a punch. It's spicy. So unless you want spicy sauce, they're quite dry, aren't they, tacos? It's not like you have sour cream, not even guacamole.
No, that's very Tex-Mex type food. So yeah, they're more dry in terms of not as much sauce or garnishes and stuff. But they're not dry in terms of like the meat is very moist meat. It's very well cooked, isn't it?
Yeah, it's marinated and it's cooked.
Very flavoursome.
A bit like how we'd go to a kebab place, with the big meat on a stick and they carve the meat off. And actually, it's very traditional to have a bit of pineapple as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's with...
Al pastor.
So tacos al pastor, which, so that will have a particular set of spices on the outside. And it is very Middle East. I think they actually got it from the Middle Eastern countries where the way that they put it up like a kebab and they cut it off and there's a pineapple at the top. So the juice of that goes all into the meat. It is incredible, like amazing flavoursome meat. Definitely get tacos when you're there, and they're so cheap as well. Like you can buy a taco for like 5p a taco or something like that.
Yeah, it's possible. The last place we'll talk about in this episode, San Cristobal de las Casas, is where we got the cheapest tacos. So it's a great snack. You'll find them on the roadside everywhere, full of flavour. Yes, they can get monotonous, but they're great. Let's whip through some others that you might not know about. Tamales.
So this is really traditional food. Normally they eat this all the time, and in every state tamales varies a little bit. But tamales, so it's made of masa or like a dough, which is steamed in a corn husk or banana leaf as well. And we actually went to a cooking class to make these, and it's really cool. So we made vegetarian ones and meat ones. Yeah, they're really tasty. They're definitely my least favorite food that we tried, but that's not to say that I don't like them. I just wouldn't necessarily order it. I've had it quite a few times now. It was nice enough. If it was put in front of me, happy to eat it, but I'd rather order something else.
Yeah, they don't pack much flavour.
No, they taste a lot of corn, so that's mainly what I could get from it. But yeah, still good.
Next, nopales, which was a revelation for me. I loved them. They're actually cactus, but when you look at them, they kind of look like green beans that are cut up, really. So it's like vegetable, but it's cactus, and you fry them. I really like them.
Tuna fruit. So I was really confused because I could see that there was tuna drink, and I was like, ugh, that sounds gross. Like fish drink, fish juice. But it's not. Tuna is a fruit.
It's a cactus fruit, and it's the size of like a big pear or a big apple, but for a cactus, which you think of as a dry plant, so moist.
Well, the fruit,
juicy.
The fruit from a cactus tree is what iguanas eat. Do you remember in the Galapagos we saw them eating them? So yeah, they are very juicy fruit. But yeah, I don't know how to explain the taste, but definitely try it when you're there. It's very Mexican.
Great. I can't explain the taste because it's unique. Yeah, I can't compare it to anything. But tuna fruit, lovely. Quesadillas, they are Mexican. Great. They're not just Western, or Mexico is in the West. They're not just invention by us or the Americans. Quesadillas, so like corn, tortilla bread or flour tortilla bread, fried on both sides, melted cheese in the middle, put wherever you want in there. Great.
Next on the food list is mole. I said that in a very American accent. You got to get some mole. Mole. So this is a sauce that's made with loads of different ingredients, including chilies and unsweetened dark chocolate. So it tastes really nutty, and I think you can definitely taste the chocolate in it. I think we tried it twice. Once or twice. We weren't keen, which I was quite upset about. I thought I would love it because a lot of people likened it to like chili con carne type sauce. Yeah. But it was too sweet for me, and I'm not a nutty person, if I'm honest.
No, you're not. Don't like them nuts in your mouth. Next was the breakfast that Lily introduced us to. Huevos, which is eggs. Huevos motileños. And motileños is the town, or
Motul is the town.
Motul is the town where it's from. This was a breakfast which consisted with, surprise, surprise, tortilla bread. You'll notice a common theme here, which is one of the reasons why after 3 months we were a bit done with Mexican food, to be honest. But tortilla bread, a bit of ham, tomato sauce, fried eggs, and plantain, like banana, fried plantain. That was a good breakfast.
But it was a different tomato. It wasn't just tomato sauce. It had like a kind of vinegary...
it wasn't Heinz.
It was like a vinegary taste. It was very special, but Oh my God. If you're there for breakfast, which if you go in Mexico, I'm sure at some point you'll be there for breakfast, get huevos motoleños. Very tasty. We loved it.
You could get some like refried beans with it as well, like
Yes.
black beans. But that's the ultimate like brunch meal.
And I guess if you are vegetarian, just ask without the ham because, you know, plantain's in there so you can get some goodness from that. But no, brilliant. Very good. Next breakfast. Chilaquiles. Now this I'd say is the most common breakfast that you'll find. So chilaquiles is basically corn tortilla pieces.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. But they're fried, they're cooked in a salsa and sprinkled with cheese. They're often served with eggs and a side of beans or nopalitos. So nopales, the cactus that Nick was talking about. But yeah, again, like you can either get green or red chilaquiles. So depending on what kind of chilies they were made with, it's quite spicy. It will get you heated up and ready for the day. Yeah, but tasty. I would definitely recommend them.
Chilaquiles is nice, yeah. And so, like we said earlier, fajito's not a thing. Burrito's not really. And finally, I just remembered there's a lot of places where you can get tortas, which in Mexico means sandwiches. Right, we touched upon Mexican food, but obviously the best thing to do is to go and eat it yourself. But yeah, I'll be honest. After 3 months, I just thought there's loads of different food, but kind of all made from similar ingredients. So it became a little bit monotonous. Some people might hate me for saying that, but I'm being honest.
It was a bit of a joke though, wasn't it? Like when you got to a new state, there was a different type of food and you're like, oh, nice. Like, what's that? And they're like, well, you know a taco? Yeah. Well, it's like taco, but with cheese. And it's like, is everything like a completely different name, but it's like, oh, it's like this, but just with avocado, or it's like, just this with
it's an
extra
open
tortilla.
Taco, or this is a closed taco.
Yeah, but it has completely different name.
This bit is half folded over.
So yeah, a lot of the same ingredients to make different foods. But it, again, like we said, very tasty. But after 3 months, we were kind of craving something a bit different.
We were. Pizza.
No.
All right, next place. We went to a town, or the state is called Campeche, but the town is like the capital of it, Campeche. And it's a seaside place, famous for pirates. Back in the day, walking around the town, you'll see like some statues of pirates and things like that. They really play on that. I mean, it's a perfectly nice place. If you're a tourist and you're kind of limited on time, I wouldn't say it's not really worth going, but we had a particularly special time there because this just shows how nice Mexican people are. So Amy's friend Gabby, who is Mexican, you'll hear from her later. We met up with her in Mexico. When she got married, like a year or two ago now, for one day or one afternoon, we met her friend Mariela, who's from Campeche. And we sent her a message and we said, oh, we're coming to your hometown. And she said, I'm not there right now. I'm working and living in Mexico City, but my family are there. Like, you can stay with them. They'll pick you up from the bus station. We've never met these people. We've met her, Mariela, for one afternoon. And then we got the bus to Campeche and her mum picked us up.
Oh.
You know, we're strangers, but she had no problem. She picked us up. We stayed in their family home. We met like the whole family, Mariela's Mariela's sisters.
We were there for the dad's birthday.
We had a proper local family experience. It was amazing. We stayed in their lovely house. The mum gave us her car. She's like, yeah, where we live, you need a car to get around, really. So just use my car. Like, I don't think you'd get that kind of kindness from your average family in most places in the world. But we got it there.
They were just stunning. And yeah, I agree. Like, if you're backpacking or on your holiday, it's not really a place I would suggest that you rush to because there aren't masses of things to do there. I think the unique thing about this place is that in the town square in the evenings around 8 o'clock, there's a light show on the council building that they have in the main plaza, the Zocalo. And there's like this really fantastic light show, and it explains the history of Mexico and the pirates that came to Campeche as well.
So the dad of the family we're staying with, Fernando, he was actually a lad. He was hilarious. So Fernando, he knew the right people in the area and arranged something very special for us.
As we speak, we are in the car driving through some sort of jungle road to get to a tortoise camp or a turtle camp. And the people we were staying with had a call from a guy called Antonio who has told them that the liberation of the turtles is happening tonight from about 6:30. It's now 6:20 and we're waiting. We're at the beach.
We think we're in the right place, but we're driving proper off-road. Can't see anyone around. But it's a beautiful place, like a really nice spot by the beach, but we can't see anyone. What do you reckon it's here?
I think so. There's signs, there's the little precaution camp, and they've got little sticks in the sand. I think they've got to be turtle eggs there.
So yeah, we arrived driving their car, bless it, which we were using. Thank you so much. Then a group of people started walking over, like with a guide. I can only assume those people had paid to be on this tour to see the turtles, but because we knew Fernando, we just told the tour guide, "Oh, Fernando told us to come here. No problem, sorted." And we did it. We got to watch hundreds and hundreds of little baby turtles hatching and running towards the ocean.
Oh my goodness, it was so bizarre because like they started to dig in the sand to pull them out, and at first you're like, oh god, they can't find any, like are they all okay? But then like one came out and then a couple more, but then suddenly this infestation of turtles just erupted from the ground.
And we thought it best for there and then to record our reaction to it all rather than us tell you now.
Oh my god, Nick. We saw them and we touched them.
We did it, yeah. I didn't think we'd be able to pick them up or touch them, but yeah, we proper held a few of them. They proper wriggle around a lot, didn't they, them little things? They seem quite strong.
Yeah, so when we were running down to the beach, the weather had kind of calmed down, but it got a lot darker. That was the only thing that was bad. It was quite dark. But they released them, and then like the little part of the beach where it was sandy, they were all kind of struggling to the sea. Oh, it was amazing. And then one of them was kind of upside down or wriggling and was struggling a bit. So I told the guy, because we're not allowed to touch them, I said, oh, you know, that one is struggling, because they were kind of redirecting them. And so I said, oh, do you want to help it? And he pointed at me like, you do it. And I was like, puedo hacer, like I can do it. And he said yeah, so I moved it, and I was so happy with that. And then you got to move one, didn't you?
Yeah, proper pick it up. And I was surprised, these baby ones, they almost feel like rock hard. I thought their shell would be soft.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I did think it would be hard.
Yeah, but yeah, and the babies were way smaller than I thought they were going to be, like what I've seen on TV, on pictures. So small, and loads of them, because not many of them survive, unfortunately, to adulthood. That's why they released thousands. But yeah, we did everything we wanted to do. Like you said, the only downer was it was dark, so you couldn't get many good pictures or videos, but it was a brilliant experience.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah, so after we moved them, the woman just said, like, put your hand out, and she just put it in my hand. I just couldn't believe it. I thought we weren't allowed to touch them, but I think that is because there are a lot of children around, and, you know, they might not always know that what they're doing, and they might not be as careful as an adult. And yeah, she just put it on my hand, and I cannot believe how fast it wriggled. It was, I don't know what the sensation was really, because you can only feel kind of a rim of their flippers, they're called?
Flippers, yeah.
Yeah, flippers. So it's just kind of your loads of lines on you really. I don't know how else to explain it.
It does feel weird, and you need two hands because they quickly wriggle out of one of your hands, don't they? And then you catch them in the other hand.
But that was a brilliant experience. One of the highlights of Mexico for sure. One of the highlights of the trip.
All right, after an amazing experience seeing the turtles in Campeche, final stop of this episode, and then we got way more coming next, was the town of San Cristobal de las Casas, which is in the state of Chiapas, right in the south of Mexico. And I know we mentioned before about we're now getting into traditional places. This felt like the first 100% fully fledged, proper Mexican place, which is very, very cheap, but also very, very beautiful. It was a stunning place. We're in Chiapas, which is one of the poorest places in Mexico, so we noticed that price drop even more. And it is a popular backpacker place. We heard a lot of people have been there because it simply is so stunning and so Mexican.
Yeah, the streets are just really authentic. When you're walking down all the little calles, the streets, like there's Mexican flags everywhere, which are called papeles picados. So like the cut papers, all the little flags in all the different colours that you'll see. And yeah, it's just very traditionally Mexican. Everything is very colourful, you know, typical food everywhere. And that side is all beautiful, but not only did we see the price drop in Chiapas, I think we definitely noticed the poverty levels going up. Now, there was one night where we were like eating food outside on the streets. And we saw this boy who was on his own, no parents around, and he was obviously living on the streets. And he was like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And we saw him, you know, trying to grab for scraps on the floor. And I have never been so broken in all my life. You know, we've traveled to India where you would expect to see a lot of this, but this was the most shocking. I think he looked really wild, didn't he? You could tell he didn't have any sort of upbringing. I don't know if he had any parents around him, but I just wanted to just pick him up and take him home. Like, I just wanted to look after him. So we were sitting at our restaurant, like on the outside, on tables outside. So we couldn't just leave because we hadn't paid yet. So I was waiting for this boy to come back, and we kind of looked around the streets looking for him again, and we finally saw him. We actually found him again. And so there's a lot of indigenous communities around this area, and he looked quite indigenous, so I didn't know if he could speak Spanish. So I approached him quite gently, and I said to him, I was like trying to ask him questions. I was like, hola, hablas español? Like, do you speak Spanish? And I said, like, are you hungry? And he said yes. And I said, would you like to come with me and get some food? And so we walked a few meters away to like a truck stand where they sell these corn on the cob. And I was ordering with him and asking what he wanted. And on the stand, the mother that was working the stand, her children were also helping her work on the stand. And it was just amazing to see like the two children looking at each other, like the boy that we were with and the children working on the stand. Their mouths fell open when they saw the boy that we were with. They were just really confused, like, why is he here? Why is he standing here? So I don't know, I guess the integration even between the children isn't there. They're not talking to each other, and they're just miles like apart, aren't they, their lives? It was just really shocking to see. And he was just so grateful when we gave him the food. Obviously, we weren't expecting him to even say thank you or anything back, but he just looked up at us and said gracias. And it just broke. I just instantly started crying, and I rubbed his back, and I was like, oh, de nada, like, you're welcome. And just rubbing his back, I could feel how skinny he was. But it's such a tough situation because, you know, where do you go from there? If we want to help him further, how do we do that? We don't know if he's got, you know, parents to go back to, but it was late at night. He's on his own. It was just heartbreaking, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's like eating food off the floor, eating out the bins. It was really sad, and it just brought it all back to us. It just made us realise we're so lucky to be doing what we're doing, travelling around the world. Yeah, like we work for our money. I mean, we make sacrifices so we can travel around the world, but we're in this privileged position where we can do it. And that's actually one of the things about travelling that I don't like. You see so many things that are just not fair. And whereas you see so many things that are amazing about the world, you also see all the things that are not. And I can't put myself in his shoes. I have no idea what it's like to live a day in his life. And yeah, hopefully a lot of people don't have to experience that, but unfortunately a lot of people do. It is a really poor part of Mexico, but it doesn't mean it's a dangerous part of Mexico. It's just, yeah, it's a very poor part, and that brought it all back. Yeah, to bring it back to a lighter note, it was an incredible place. It's beautiful. I've got so many favourites in Mexico. I can't say it's my favourite place in Mexico, but it's one of them. Everyone should go to San Cristobal de las Casas. It's a real special place. I can't really put my finger on exactly why. It just is a very special place. And we were actually there for Mexican Independence Day, weren't we? So there was a bit of a party going on in the town square. Yeah,
so lots of fireworks and everybody in the Zocalo. And then the following day when we woke up, there was like a military service where the army and all these different people were doing a bit of a march through the town centre, and the police were going through as well. So yeah, it was really interesting to be there for Independence Day. Everybody was like, you know, shouting Viva Mexico. I think it's called the grito, when the president of that town stands on the balcony and everybody's in the Zocalo and they all look at him and they all shout Viva Mexico. That's called the grito. So yeah, that's definitely something to experience, which we didn't.
Yeah, because everyone said, the Independence Day, I think it's like 16th of September. We're like, great, 16th of September, we'll keep that date free. But they don't celebrate it on that day. They celebrate it the night before.
They didn't tell us that.
So just be aware. Check with your accommodations. We heard it was great, but we missed it. But we did see the parade the next day. You know, it was just cool. It was good to see that side of things, to celebrate Mexico.
San Cristobal de las Casas is that you can go on tours out of the city, but in the same area of Chiapas. So we went on a tour to a canyon, and it was stunning. Nick's just get the name while I tell you about it. You go on a boat and it drives you all the way up the canyon and all the way back again, which sounds not very exciting, but it was really good. So it's called Sumidero Canyon. So that's Sumidero, Sumidero Canyon. And parts of the canyon are like 1 kilometer high. There's crocodiles in the water. So we saw some baby crocs, which was really nice. We saw some monkeys.
Yeah, a mum and a baby came right up close to us. It's a stunning place.
Oh, loved it. Really good day.
Yeah, and hardly anyone really knows about it, but it's really amazing. So that's just a day trip from San Cristobal de las Casas. You've got to do it. It's a stunning place.
I know you can also go to a couple of indigenous communities there, which we didn't do because we didn't have time. But from what I know, there's 2 main communities. One of them is a patriarchal society, so everything's run by men, and the other one is matriarchal, so everything's run by women, which is really cool. So yeah, if I could go back, I would definitely like to go see the women's side. It'd be nice to see how the women are running this shit.
Who runs the world?
Women.
Girls
do.
Right, so but we didn't visit the indigenous communities, but we did the next best thing. So while we were there, we heard about a charity called Steps, who put on many events for tourists, including traditional cooking classes. So we decided to check it out.
So yeah, our cooking class was really good because we learnt the traditional way to cook corn tortillas. And from the tortillas, we made quesadillas as well. And we also made corn drinks. So, corn and corn.
Well, exactly. We're eating corn and drinking corn. Another example of the monotonous food in Mexico. The ingredients are all the same, really.
But yeah, not good if you're like me and not a massive fan of corn. But I can only handle a little bit. But it was very good. So when you're rolling out the tortillas in the traditional way, you roll it onto this stone that they put calcium on. And that calcium's there to ensure that when you're rolling it out, the tortilla doesn't get stuck to the rock and you can't get it off. But calcium ends up being in your tortilla, obviously. But that's why a lot of the indigenous people in this area get kidney stones, because they're eating so much calcium, and you can see it on the tortilla because it looks like a white powder, like a bit like if you strip paint, basically. If you painted a stone and then bits of the white paint came off, it looks like that. And and so she was telling us, oh yeah, you get kidney stones from this, and I was like, yummy, can't wait to eat it.
It's kidney stones. But yeah, we learned how to cook tortilla breads the proper traditional indigenous way, which is really interesting. I definitely recommend anyone do it. Cheap to do, and the money goes towards good causes, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So after our cooking class, we had the opportunity to chat to 2 of the volunteers.
My name is Ivan Molina. I come from North Mexico.
And my name is Laura Hernandez. I'm from Chamula. I born in Chamula, but I'm here more than 20 years, living in San Cristobal.
We asked Laura about her indigenous roots.
Well, in Chamula is like the capital of a city, in fact, but in Chamula we have many other communities around in Chamula, and I'm born in a special community that is Baxaquén.
I've heard about the different indigenous communities, that they have different leaders. So your community, are they led by men or women?
We usually led by men. Because the man is like, for example, the main important person, because they have to guide us. Just the women have to be in the house doing the things that are parts of the house. But well, it's crazy for me because I think that the men and also the women has the same thing, so we can make everything. Nowadays you can find, for example, women that has a lot of bachelor or studies.
Yeah. So is it hard being a woman in your community?
Yes, it's hard because, well, nowadays we have better things. But before, you can see that just the women have to be in the house and that's it.
Okay, and what's your first language?
Tzotzil.
And how do you say hello and thank you?
Hello is like liote. Thank you is kolabal.
Could you explain a little bit of the history of the indigenous people here?
Well, Tzotzil, it comes from Mayan culture. You have like 3 big communities of Mayan descendants. One is in Guatemala, another in Chiapas, and another one in Yucatán. And the oral tradition of these communities are super important because when the Spanish came, they basically destroyed everything. They destroyed the writing culture, and what they have now, it's in this new century. People from Tzotzil communities are starting to write their language, but in Spanish, with the Spanish letters. And before the Spanish came, indigenous over here, Mayan, were vegetarians. The only meat they eat, it was human meat after the sacrifices. Also, the sacrifice, it was not killing just a person. They wanted to be sacrifices.
It was kind of an honor.
Exactly.
It was an honor.
It's like an honor for them to be sacrificed. Usually the best one have to be sacrificed.
So being sacrificed over here, and difference between European culture, it's everything, it's about the soul. Nothing is about the body. The body is just a cage. And burp, it's a symbol of purification of the soul, because they were drinking holy water. They were drinking mineral water. So after the capitalism came, this savage capitalism by Coca-Cola came, they start to take the water, that it's the only drinkable water over here, because the rest of the water is polluted by mineral industry. So the levels of water get super low, and they were not able anymore to take mineral water. So they realized Coca-Cola makes you burp. And as I told you, if you go to the communities and you give them information to them that it's so bad, they will say, I don't care, because if I get sick from the body, it doesn't matter, because I'm getting purified my soul.
By burping.
By burping.
Yeah.
For them, the body is just a cage. If you're gonna get sick, it's better to be sick than not have a pure soul.
What is STEPS? What are you guys, and what do you do?
Yeah, STEPS is a social project that it doesn't have any support by government, and we aim to preserve and spread the culture of the Tzotzil people. We do it translating to Spanish their legends in the communities. We go to the communities, we record, we interview the elder people over there, and in Tzotzil, of course. And then after that, we translate it to Spanish in order to approach the language to the kids. Basically, Chiapas is the worst state talking about education in Mexico, and also their second language is Spanish. And the Mexican Constitution, it's in Spanish as well. So if they don't know Spanish, they cannot know their rights. So it's pretty important. And also, if they want to keep studying, they have to learn Spanish. So they have some technology, but the only way they can learn will be with books.
Fascinating, interesting stuff about the attitudes or the thinking of the local people when it comes to the human body. It's just a cage. It's not something they really have to look after. That's how they see things. But great work that the people at STEPS are doing. By putting on events for tourists, they're helping to keep indigenous culture alive and helping the kids to learn Spanish, giving them tools that they're going to need if they want to have a successful life. So it's good stuff that they're doing, helping the indigenous people there who, let's be honest, it's the same around the world, the same story. The local indigenous people don't really get much help. So well worth checking out STEPS when you're in San Cristobal.
Just a quick shout out to Mikel and Eric as well. So 2 brothers that we couchsurf with in San Cristobal de las Casas. Because at first we stayed with them for a couple of days, and then we moved more in town in a beautiful hostel that actually had a Brazil night, which we were really happy about. So we're in Mexico celebrating Brazil culture on Mexican Independence Day. Or around that time anyway. But yeah, Michael and Eric, 2 brothers, amazing guys who showed us around town, educated us on their Mexican history, and just, yeah, really great guys. Again, just want to shout out to him. Thanks for having us.
The nicest guys ever. Some people think of Mexicans as all like drug cartel people, and these guys, like in their spare time, like to go to like comic book shops and play board games. Like the furthest away from drug cartel people that you'd ever think. Nicest guys in the world. So, that was a lot, but it's only half time.
Yeah. Well, we're saying half time and we're splitting this in two, but I think that's only a third of the places that we went, because the second episode, where we're talking about mainland Mexico, we covered way more ground. But, you know, we've got a mini episode as well coming up about Huasteca Potosina, which is a particular area of Mexico to the north of Mexico City, about 5 hours from there to drive. And yeah, that's in itself going to be its own episode. So there is so many places to tell you about in Mexico. It is a dream location, whether it's holidays, backpacking, or yeah, whatever type of experience you want, it's there.
Mexico's got it all. In the next episode, we're going to be going more into like the bad stereotype that Mexico has. You know, is it dangerous? We're going to be visiting so many more places, getting to know a lot more about this fascinating country. This was kind of this was all the tourist side and a bit of an introduction into the real Mexico.
And we're also going to talk about temazcals, which are like healing ceremonies. And we did one. It was very interesting.
One of the strangest experiences of my life.
I was wooing like a wolf at one point.
And crying.
I cried and I screamed like a wolf.
Oh, God. Yeah, the weirdest experience of our lives coming up next.
So, guys, that's what's coming up in the next episode. Don't forget that you can support us through Patreon. Check us out on YouTube and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell. We have some merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, all of that, all on our website, www.whatthefotravelpodcast.com.
Don't forget, you can get in touch with the show. You can email us at whatthefopodcast@gmail.com. We are also on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and we are also on Patreon. For more information on all those things, you can go to our website at www.whatthefopodcast.com.